1 month after landing on Kepler 442c, the human colony had transformed from a desperate survival mission into something that looked like a thriving community. Jake Morrison stood on the observation platform they had built on top of their main shelter, looking out over what was now clearly a permanent settlement. The base had grown far beyond their original plans. What started as 3 simple shelters had become a complex of interconnected buildings. They had workshops, laboratories, living quarters, a dining hall, and even a recreational facility. The construction that should have taken years on Earth had been completed in weeks on this high-gravity world. Below him, Jake could see Joe Martinez working in their agricultural area. Joe was their farming specialist, and he had been experimenting with growing Earth crops in the alien soil. The results had surprised everyone, including Joe himself. "Jake, you need to come see this," Joe called up to him. Jake climbed down from the platform, moving with the easy confidence that had become natural for all of them. The ladder that would have been difficult to use a month ago now felt as simple as walking on flat ground. Joe was standing next to rows of vegetables that looked nothing like the crops they had planted. The tomatoes were twice the size of normal Earth tomatoes, but denser and more colorful. The corn stalks were shorter but much thicker, with ears that looked like they could feed a family by themselves. "What happened to them?" Jake asked. "The high gravity," Joe explained excitedly. "The plants are adapting just like we are. They're growing denser, stronger, more efficient. These tomatoes have 3 times the nutrition of normal tomatoes. The corn has twice the protein content." Jake picked up one of the tomatoes. It was heavy, much heavier than a normal tomato should be, but it felt solid and perfect in his hand. "Can we eat them?" "I've been testing them for a week," Joe said. "They're not only safe, they're better than Earth food. More vitamins, more minerals, more protein. It's like the planet is making everything stronger." Amy Turner jogged over to them, moving at a pace that would have been impossible for any human a month ago. She was carrying a tablet and looked excited about something. "Joe, Jake, perfect timing," Amy said, not even breathing hard despite her run. "I've been analyzing the planet's ecosystem, and I think I know why everything here is getting stronger." She activated her tablet and showed them a complex diagram. "Look at this. The planet's gravity doesn't just affect large objects. It affects everything down to the molecular level. Plants, animals, even microorganisms have to work harder to survive here. So?" Jake asked. "So evolution doesn't just happen over millions of years," Amy explained. "It also happens quickly when organisms face extreme challenges. Everything on this planet, including us, is being forced to become more efficient, stronger, better adapted." Joe nodded in understanding. "That's why my crops are so much better than normal. They're not just surviving the high gravity, they're using it to become superior plants." Jake thought about this. It made sense that the same forces making humans stronger would affect other living things the same way. What about the native life forms? Have you found any? "That's the interesting part," Amy said. "There aren't any large native life forms. Just plants and microorganisms. I think the gravity is too strong for most animal life to evolve here naturally. But humans can handle it," Jake said. "Humans can handle anything," said a voice behind them. They turned to see Kate Rogers approaching. Kate was their fitness coordinator, and she had been working with the crew to help them adapt to their new environment. She looked stronger and more energetic than Jake had ever seen her. "I've been running some tests," Kate said. "Want to see something amazing?" She led them to the recreational area where she had set up various exercise equipment. "Remember how hard it was to do simple exercises when we first arrived? Watch this." Kate walked over to a set of weights that would have been considered heavy even on Earth. She picked them up and began doing exercises that should have been impossible in triple gravity. She moved smoothly and easily, like the weights were made of foam. "That's incredible," Joe said. "How much weight is that?" "About what I used to lift on Earth," Kate said. "But here, it's 3 times heavier." Which means I'm 3 times stronger than I was a month ago. Amy was already running calculations on her tablet. If humans continue adapting at this rate, we'll be stronger and healthier than any human in history within a few months. What about our friends up there? Jake asked, pointing to the sky where they all knew alien observer ships were watching them dot as if summoned by his question, their communication system began beeping. Nick Stevens ran over from the workshop where he had been building improvements. To their equipment, it's Veltar again, Nick announced. The Zephyrian observer wants to talk to us. Jake activated the communication system. Veltar's image appeared on their screen, but the alien looked different than before. Its normally bright coloring seemed faded, and its movements were slow and tired. "Humans," Veltar said through the translator, "I have been observing your colony for 1 month. I must ask you some questions." "Of course," Jake said. "What do you want to know? Are you enjoying yourselves?" Veltar asked, as if the concept was difficult to understand. Jake looked around at his crew. Kate was still lifting weights that should have been impossible. Joe was tending crops that were better than anything grown on Earth. Amy was analyzing data that showed continuous improvement in everything they studied. Everyone looked healthy, happy, and more energetic than they had been in years. "Yes," Jake said simply. "We're enjoying ourselves very much. But this is a death world," Veltar sighed. "High-gravity worlds are supposed to be places of suffering and failure. How can you be enjoying the death world?" "Maybe it's only a death world for some species," Lisa said, joining the conversation. "For humans, it seems to be a life world." Veltar was quiet for a long moment. "I have sent reports to the Galactic Council. They do not believe my observations. They think I'm making errors in my data collection." "What kind of observations?" Jake asked. "I have recorded humans lifting objects that should crush them. I have seen humans running distances that should exhaust them. I have watched humans work for hours without rest in conditions that would kill most beings in minutes." Pete Johnson walked over, carrying a piece of equipment that weighed several hundred pounds. He set it down gently and joined the conversation, not even breathing. "Hard from the effort. I have observed humans playing games in triple gravity," Veltar continued. "Games for fun. In conditions that my own species considers lethal." Jake realized that Veltar was right. Just yesterday, several crew members had organized a game of soccer using a ball they had made from local materials. They had run around for hours, laughing and competing, treating the crushing gravity like it was nothing more than an interesting challenge. "We also observed that human crops grow better here than they do on your home world," Veltar said. "Your food production is more efficient in deadly conditions than it is in safe conditions. This makes no sense." "It makes perfect sense if you understand humans," Amy said. "We don't just adapt to difficult conditions. We thrive in them. The harder the challenge, the stronger we become." "Your colony's population has also increased," Veltar said. "How is this possible?" Jake smiled. 3 new crew members had arrived from Earth the previous week, drawn by the reports of their success. They had adapted to the high gravity even faster than the original colonists, as if the techniques for adaptation were getting better with practice. "Word is spreading," Jake explained. "More humans want to come here. They want to see what we've built and be part of it." "But why?" Veltar asked. "Why do humans seek out dangerous places? Why do you go to worlds that other species avoid?" Jake thought about the question. It was a good one, and it got to the heart of what made humans different from other species. "Because that's where the best opportunities are," Jake said finally. "Other species see this world and think about all the ways it could kill them. Humans see this world and think about all the ways it could make them stronger." Veltar's image flickered as the alien processed this information. "The Galactic Council wants to send a scientific expedition to study your colony. They want to understand how this is possible." "They're welcome to come," Jake said. "But they should be prepared to be surprised." "They are already surprised," Veltar said. "Your success here has challenged everything we thought we knew about high-gravity colonization. Some council members are now wondering what other impossible worlds humans might be able to colonize. Jake looked around at his thriving colony, at his healthy and happy crew, at the amazing crops and the impressive buildings they had constructed in just 1 month. "Tell the council we'd be happy to help. Them find out," he said. 2 weeks had passed since the New Horizon touched down on Kepler 442c, and Jake Morrison could hardly believe the changes he was seeing in his crew. What had started as a struggle just to stand up had slowly become something that looked almost normal. Jake stood outside their newly built shelter, watching Pete Johnson work on their power generator. 2 weeks ago, Pete had barely been able to lift a simple tool. Now he was carrying equipment that would have been heavy even on Earth, moving with a confidence that surprised everyone. "Hand me that wrench," Pete called to Amy Turner, who was helping him with the installation. Amy picked up the tool and tossed it to Pete without thinking. The wrench flew through the air in a perfect arc, and Pete caught it easily. Both of them stopped and stared at each other. "Did you just throw that?" Pete asked. "I think I did," Amy said, looking at her own hand like she didn't recognize it. "It felt light." Jake smiled. It was the same thing that had been happening to all of them. Tools that had felt impossibly heavy on the first day now seemed normal. Tasks that had required 2 people working together could now be done by 1 person. Their bodies were adapting faster than anyone had expected. Dr. Lisa Carter emerged from the medical shelter where she had been running tests on the crew. She carried a tablet full of data, and her face showed the excitement of a scientist making an important discovery. "Jake, you need to see this," Lisa said, walking over to him with quick, confident steps. 2 weeks ago, she had moved like an old woman. Now she walked like someone half her age. "What have you found?" Jake asked. Lisa activated her tablet, and charts appeared on the screen. "I've been monitoring everyone's health since we landed. The results are incredible. Look at this." She pointed to a graph showing heart function over time. "This is Pete's cardiovascular system. On day 1, his heart was working at maximum capacity just to keep him alive. Now look at day 14. Jake studied the chart. "His heart rate is almost normal. Better than normal," Lisa said. "His heart muscle has grown stronger in just 2 weeks. His blood pressure has stabilized at optimal levels. His circulation is actually better than it was on Earth." She flipped to another chart. "This is Amy's bone density scan. In 2 weeks, her bones have become 20% denser. Her skeleton is literally getting stronger every day." Jake felt excitement building in his chest. "What about muscle development?" "Even more impressive," Lisa said, pulling up more data. "Everyone's muscle mass has increased dramatically. Not just size, but efficiency. You're all getting stronger, faster, and more coordinated every day." As if to prove her point, Nick Stevens jogged past him carrying a load of construction materials. He was moving at a pace that would have been normal on Earth, but here it meant he was fighting 3 times the gravity with every step. He wasn't even breathing hard. "Nick," Jake called. "How do you feel?" Nick stopped and set down his load. "Great, actually. I was just thinking that this doesn't feel as heavy as it did yesterday. It's like my body is learning how to work better." Ben Clark walked over to join the conversation. The ship's medic had been monitoring everyone's health closely, and Jake could see that he was pleased with what he was finding. "It's not just learning," Ben said. "It's evolving. Not in the long-term sense, but in the short-term sense. Your bodies are changing at the cellular level to handle the increased stress. Is that normal?" Jake asked. "For humans, apparently it is," Ben said. "I've been comparing our data to what the alien species reported during their failed colonization attempts. They showed signs of organ stress, bone weakness, and muscle failure. We're showing the opposite," Lisa nodded in agreement. "The aliens were right that high gravity puts enormous stress on living beings, but they were wrong about how humans respond to stress. Instead of breaking down, we get stronger." Jake thought about this. It made sense when he considered human history. Humans had always thrived in difficult environments. They climbed mountains, dove deep underwater, ran long distances, and lifted heavy weights. Maybe high gravity was just another challenge that human bodies knew how to handle. What about long-term effects? Jake asked. Are we doing any permanent damage to ourselves? Just the opposite, Ben said. Based on what I'm seeing, living in, high gravity might actually make humans healthier. Stronger bones, better circulation, more efficient organs. We might live longer here than we would on Earth. Amy had finished helping Pete with the generator and came over to join their discussion. I've noticed something else, she said. I'm sleeping better here than I did on the ship. I wake up feeling more rested. That's because your body is working harder during the day, Ben explained. You're getting better exercise just by living normally. Your sleep is deeper and more restorative. Pete wiped his hands on a cloth and looked around at the base camp they had built. In 2 weeks, they had constructed 3 shelter buildings, a power system, a water purification plant, and a communication array. The work that should have taken months had been completed in days, even while fighting triple gravity. You know what's weird? Pete said. This is starting to feel normal. I keep forgetting that we're supposed to be struggling to survive. Jake understood what Pete meant. The first few days had been difficult, but now life on Kepler 442c felt natural. They moved with confidence, worked efficiently, and slept well. If anything, they felt better than they had during the long journey from Earth. We should send a report back to Earth, Lisa suggested. Let them know how we're doing. What about the Galactic Council? Amy asked. Are we going to tell them? Jake considered this. They had been on the planet for 2 weeks without any contact from the alien observers. Either the council didn't know where they were, or they were waiting to see what happened. Not yet, Jake decided. Let's give it a little more time. I want to be absolutely sure we can handle this before we tell anyone. As if summoned by their conversation, their communication system began beeping. Nick ran over to check the incoming signal. It's a transmission from orbit, Nick announced. Alien ship requesting permission to land. Jake felt his heart rate increase, but not from the gravity this time. Are they council observers? Nick checked the signal identification. Zephyrian ship. Single occupant. It's requesting permission to conduct a scientific survey. That's Veltar, Lisa said. One of the observers from the council meeting. They must have finally found us. Jake thought quickly. They couldn't hide forever, and they had nothing to be ashamed of. If anything, they should be proud of what they had accomplished. Give them permission to land, Jake said. But tell them to land away from our base camp. I want to control how this meeting goes. Nick sent a response, and within an hour they could see the alien ship descending through the atmosphere. It was small and elegant, very different from the practical design of human ships. It landed about a mile away from their base camp, in a clearing near the river. Should we go meet them? Amy asked. All of us, Jake said. I want them to see that we're all healthy and functioning. The crew gathered their equipment and began to walk to the alien ship. Jake was amazed at how easy the journey felt. A mile? Walk in triple gravity should have been exhausting, but they covered the distance quickly and arrived without being tired. The alien ship's door opened, and Veltar emerged. The Zephyrian moved slowly and carefully, clearly struggling with the planet's gravity. Its forearms shook with effort, and its insect-like body seemed to be having trouble supporting its own weight. Humans, Veltar said through its translator. You are alive. Very much alive, Jake said. And very happy to see you. Veltar looked around at the human crew. Jake could see confusion in the aliens' large compound eyes. They had expected to find dead humans or humans begging for rescue. Instead, they had found humans who looked healthier and stronger than when they had left the station. How long have you been here? Veltar asked. 2 weeks, Lisa said. We've been building our colony and adapting to the environment. Adapting, Veltar repeated the word like it was something impossible. Show me, Jake smiled and picked up a large rock from the ground. On Earth, it would have been heavy but manageable. Here, it should have been impossible for a human to lift. He raised it over his head with one hand. Veltar's translator made a sound that Jake thought might be surprised. "How?" the alien asked. "We told you," Jake said, setting the rock down gently. "Humans adapt." The journey to Kepler-442c had taken exactly 3 weeks, just as Lisa had predicted. During that time, the crew of the New Horizon had prepared as much as they could for what was waiting for them. They had exercised constantly, building up their muscles and strengthening their hearts. They had practiced moving in heavy suits that simulated extra gravity. They had gone over their emergency plans until everyone could recite them in their sleep, but nothing had really prepared them for the moment when Nick Stevens, their pilot, began the final approach to the planet's surface. "Beginning atmospheric. Entry," Nick said over the ship's communication system. His voice was steady, but Jake could hear the tension underneath. Nick had landed ships on dozens of worlds, but never one with triple gravity. Jake was strapped into his seat in the command section, watching the main screen as the planet grew larger in front of them. It was even more beautiful than the pictures had shown. Blue oceans reflected the light of the system's yellow star. Green and brown continents were scattered across the surface like pieces of a puzzle. White clouds drifted through the atmosphere, and Jake could see what looked like mountain ranges and river systems. "It looks just like Earth," Amy said from her seat next to him. She was staring at the screen with wonder in her eyes. "It's almost like coming home, except for the part where it wants to crush us," Pete muttered from behind them. The ship began to shake as it entered the planet's atmosphere. Jake felt his body being pressed back into his seat as the ship slowed down. The gravity was already starting to affect them, even though they were still flying through the air. "Gravity is increasing," Nick reported. "We're at 1.5 times Earth normal now. Everything feels heavier." Jake tried to lift his arm and found that it took more effort than usual. It was like trying to move underwater, except the water was invisible. And everywhere. He looked around at his crew and saw that everyone was feeling the same thing. "How are the ship's systems?" he asked Pete. "All good so far," Pete said, checking his instruments. "The engines are working harder than normal, but they're designed for this. Landing gear is ready. Everything looks stable." The shaking got worse as they descended through the clouds. Jake could feel his heart beating harder as his body tried to pump blood through vessels that felt like they were being squeezed. His breathing was becoming more difficult, like there was a weight sitting on his chest. 2 times Earth gravity, Nick announced. Still descending, looking for a good landing spot. Through the clouds, Jake could see the surface of the planet, rushing up to meet them. There were forests and grasslands, rivers and lakes. It looked like the perfect place to build a home, if they could survive long enough to build it. "There," Lisa said, pointing at the screen. "That flat area near the river, it's perfect for our base camp." Nick adjusted their course toward the spot Lisa had indicated. The ship's engines roared as they fought against the planet's gravity. Jake could feel sweat on his forehead, even though the ship's temperature was normal. His body was already working harder just to keep functioning. 2.5 times Earth gravity, Nick said. "This is getting difficult. The controls are heavy. Everything takes more effort." Jake could see Nick struggling with the ship's controls. The pilot's hands were shaking with the effort of moving the flight controls. Normally, flying a ship was almost effortless for someone with Nick's experience. Now it looked like hard physical work. "Almost there," Nick said through gritted teeth. 3 times Earth gravity. Full planetary surface gravity. Beginning final descent. The moment they reached full gravity, Jake felt like someone had put a heavy blanket over his entire body. His arms felt like they weighed twice as much as normal. His legs felt like they were made of lead. Even turning his head to look around. "Took effort. Landing gear deployed," Pete announced. "All systems still green. The ship is handling the gravity better than we are." The New Horizon touched down with a harder thud than usual. The landing was rougher than Nick's normal perfect touchdowns, but it was still safe. They were down. They were on the surface of a world that the Galactic Council had said would kill them. "Engines off," Nick said. "We're down. Welcome to our new home, everyone." Jake tried to unbuckle his safety harness and found that it took much more effort than it should have. His fingers felt clumsy and weak. The simple metal buckle felt like it weighed several pounds. "Everyone take your time," Ben Clark said. "Don't try to move too fast. Your bodies are already under stress. We need to be careful not to make things worse." Jake finally got his harness undone and tried to stand up. The moment he put weight on his legs, he almost fell back down. It was like trying to stand up while carrying someone on his back. His legs shook with the effort of supporting his own weight. Around him, the other crew members were having similar problems. Amy managed to stand up, but she had to hold onto her chair for support. Lisa was moving very slowly, like she was walking through thick mud. Pete was still sitting down, looking pale and breathing hard. "This is harder than I expected," Amy said. "And we trained for this." "We trained with extra weight," Ben said. "But this is different. This is our entire bodies being pulled down by gravity. Every organ, every bone, every muscle is 3 times heavier than normal." Jake took a careful step forward. It felt like his feet were stuck to the floor. Each step required him to concentrate and use muscles he didn't normally think about. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest, working harder to pump blood through his body. "The alien observers were right about one thing," he said. "This is not going to be easy, but we're doing it," Lisa said. She had managed to walk across the command section, though she was breathing hard. "We're standing up. We're moving. We're not dead." Pete finally stood up, using his chair and the wall for support. "Speak for yourself," he said. "I feel like I've been hit by a truck." "That's normal," Ben said. "Your cardiovascular system is working much harder than usual. Your bones and joints are under more stress. Your muscles are fighting gravity with every movement. But you're adapting already." Jake looked around at his crew. They all looked tired and strained, but they were all still standing. They were all still functioning. None of them had collapsed or gone into medical shock like the aliens had predicted. "We need to start moving around," Jake said. "We can't just stand here. We need to begin setting up our base camp." "Are you crazy?" Pete asked. "We can barely stand up, and you want us to start doing construction work?" "We don't have a choice," Jake said. "We need shelter. We need to get our equipment set up. We need to prove that we can function in this environment." Nick had been quiet during the conversation, but now he spoke up. "Jake's right. We can't just sit in the ship. We came here to build a colony, not to hide." Amy nodded in agreement. "Besides, the longer we wait, the harder it's going to be. We need to start adapting now." Ben activated his medical scanner and began checking everyone's vital signs. Heart rates are elevated but stable. Blood pressure is high but not dangerous. Muscle tension is extreme but manageable. "We're stressed, but we're not dying. Yet," Pete added. "We're not going to die," Lisa said firmly. "We're going to adapt. Humans always adapt." Jake made his way slowly to the ship's main door. Each step was still difficult, but he was already starting to get used to the feeling. His body was learning how to move in the heavy gravity. "Pete, can you get the equipment ready?" Jake asked. "We need to set up our basic shelter and communication systems." "I'll try," Pete said, "but don't expect me to move very fast." "We'll all move slowly at first," Jake said. "But we'll get faster. We'll get stronger. We'll learn to live here." He reached the door controls and pressed the button to open the ships. "Main hatch." The door slid open with a soft hiss, and Jake got his first look at the alien world outside. The air smelled clean and fresh, like Earth air after a thunderstorm. He could see trees and grass, a blue sky with white clouds, and a river. flowing in the distance. It was beautiful and peaceful, a perfect place to build a home, except for the crushing weight that made every breath an effort and every step a challenge. Jake took a deep breath and stepped outside. The ground felt solid under his feet, but walking on it was like walking on the bottom of a swimming pool. Everything was slow and difficult and required constant effort, but he was walking. He was breathing. He was alive. Behind him, the rest of the crew followed one by one. They moved slowly and carefully, but they moved. They were doing something that 12 alien species had declared impossible. They were surviving on a world with triple gravity, and they were just getting started. The walk back to the docking bay felt longer than the journey to the council chamber. Jake Morrison's boots made soft sounds on the metal floor of Nexus Prime, each step echoing his disappointment. Next to him, Dr. Lisa Carter carried their research, materials in silence. The corridors were filled with aliens going about their daily business, but Jake barely noticed them. His mind was already racing ahead to what he would tell his crew. The transport shuttle was small and cramped compared to the vast spaces of the alien station. Jake settled into the pilot's seat and started the engines without saying a word. Lisa strapped herself in next to him, staring out the window at the strange architecture of Nexus Prime. The station looked like a collection of soap bubbles connected by tubes, beautiful and alien in the light of the nearby star. They didn't even listen, Lisa said finally, as they pulled away from the docking port. They made up their minds before we even spoke. Jake guided the shuttle through the traffic lanes around the station. Other ships moved past them, some so large that the human shuttle looked like a toy beside them. They listened, he said. They just didn't believe us. Same thing, Lisa said. They think we're children playing with fire. The journey back to the New Horizon took 20 minutes. Their ship was parked in the outer ring of the station, where the less important vessels were kept. It was a good ship, built for long journeys and hard work, but it looked very plain next to the elegant alien craft around it. Jake had always been proud of the New Horizon, but now it seemed small and ordinary. Dock Captain Ryan Brooks was waiting for them in the docking bay when they arrived. Ryan was older than Jake, with gray hair and laugh lines around his eyes. He had been flying ships longer than Jake had been alive, and there was no one Jake trusted more to get them where they needed to go. I can tell by your faces that it didn't go well, Ryan said as they climbed out of the shuttle. They said no, Jake said simply. They think we'll die if we try to live on a high-gravity world. Maybe they're right, said a voice from behind them. Pete Johnson stepped out from behind a stack of cargo containers. He was the ship's chief engineer, a man who could fix anything and build anything they needed. His hands were always dirty from working on the ship's systems, and he had a habit of wiping them on his clothes. Pete, Jake said, feeling tired. Not now. I'm just saying, Pete continued, maybe we should listen to beings who have been exploring space for thousands of years. They've probably seen things we can't even imagine. Lisa turned to face him, her eyes bright with anger. So we should just give up? Go back to Earth and tell everyone that we failed before we even tried? I'm not saying give up, Pete said. I'm saying maybe we should find a different planet, one that won't kill us. More crew members began gathering in the docking bay. Word traveled fast on a ship this size. Amy Turner, the team's biologist, arrived first. She was young and excited about everything, always asking questions and taking notes. Behind her came Ben Clark, the ship's medic, a quiet man who seemed to know what everyone was thinking before they said it. What happened? Amy asked. Did they approve our request? No, Jake said. They think humans are too weak to survive on a high-gravity world. Too weak? Amy laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Have they seen what humans can do? We're the only species that runs for fun. We climb mountains because they're there. We dive to the bottom of oceans just to see what's down there. That's what I told them, Lisa said. They didn't care. They said those were just temporary activities, not permanent living. Ben Clark had been listening quietly. Now he spoke up. Maybe they have a point. Triple gravity will put enormous stress on human bodies. Heart problems, bone fractures, organ damage. The medical risks are real. But are they impossible to overcome? Jake asked. That's the real question. The crew fell silent. Jake could see them thinking, weighing the risks against their desire to prove that humans could do anything. These were not ordinary people. They were explorers, scientists, engineers, and dreamers. They had all volunteered for this mission, knowing it would be dangerous. Ryan Brooks cleared his throat. I've been thinking about this for a while, he said, even before we got to the station. What if the council said no? What if they tried to stop us? What are you suggesting? Jake asked. I'm suggesting we don't need their permission to explore space. We're free beings from a free world. If we want to try to live on a planet with triple gravity, that's our choice to make. Pete Johnson looked shocked. You're talking about going against the Galactic Council. That could make us enemies of every species in the galaxy. Or it could make us the first humans to prove that we're tougher than anyone thinks, Amy said. Her eyes were bright with excitement. Think about it. If we succeed, we'll change how every alien species sees humans forever. Lisa pulled out her research device and activated it. Images appeared in the air above them, showing the planet they wanted to colonize. It was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents. It looked almost like Earth, except for the data readings that showed its crushing gravity. Look at it, Lisa said. It's perfect for human life except for the gravity. The atmosphere is breathable, the temperature is comfortable, there's fresh water and soil that can grow crops. If we can handle the gravity, we can build a real home there. And if we can't handle it, Pete asked. Then we'll find out quickly, Ben said. The medical effects of high gravity show up fast. We'll know within days if it's killing us. Jake looked around at his crew. These people had followed him across the galaxy on the promise of finding a new home for humanity. They had trusted him to make the right decisions, to lead them to something better than what they had left behind on Earth. I won't order anyone to come with me, Jake said. This has to be a choice each person makes for themselves. If we do this, we're going against the most powerful organization in the galaxy. We're betting our lives that humans are tougher than aliens think we are. Amy was the first to speak. I'm in. I didn't come all this way to turn back now. Me too, said Lisa. I want to prove that human science is as good as alien science. Ryan nodded. I've been flying ships for 30 years, and I've never backed down from a challenge. I'm not starting now. One by one, the crew members agreed to continue with the mission. Even Pete, who had been the most worried about the risks, eventually nodded his agreement. All right then, Jake said. But we do this smart. We prepare for every possible problem. We set up emergency procedures. We make sure we can evacuate quickly if things go wrong. How long do we have? Amy asked. The council will expect us to leave the system within a few days, Ryan said. After that, they'll start asking questions about why we're still here. Then we leave, Jake said. But we don't go back to Earth. We go to Kepler 442c. Lisa was already working on her device, pulling up star charts and navigation data. It's a 3-week journey from here. We can use that time to prepare our bodies and our equipment for high gravity. What about the alien observer ships? Pete asked. They'll be watching to make sure we follow the rules. Ryan smiled for the first time since they had returned from the council meeting. Let them watch. By the time they figure out what we're really doing, we'll already be on the planet. Jake felt a familiar excitement building in his chest. It was the same feeling he had gotten as a child when he was about to do something his parents had told him not to do. It was the feeling of being truly alive. All right, everyone, he said. Let's go prove that humans are tougher than the rest of the galaxy thinks we are. The crew dispersed to their stations, each person beginning preparations for the journey. Ahead, Jake stayed in the docking bay with Ryan, watching his people work with new energy and purpose. You think we're crazy? Jake asked. Probably, Ryan said. But crazy is what makes us human. And maybe that's exactly what we need to succeed, where everyone else has failed. The meeting room on Nexus Prime was massive. Its walls curved upward like the inside of a giant egg, made from materials that seemed to shift color in the light. 12 different alien species sat around a table that could have held 50 humans. The air smelled strange, like metal mixed with flowers, because the room had to support many different types of beings who breathed different things. Jake Morrison stood at the center of it all, feeling very small. He was a tall man by human standards, but here he looked like a child among giants. His uniform was simple and plain compared to the exotic clothing and natural coverings of the aliens around him. Some had shells, others had fur, and a few seemed to be made of living crystal that sparkled when they moved. Next to Jake stood Dr. Lisa Carter, the smartest person he had ever met. She carried a small device that held all their research about the planet they wanted to call home. Her hand shook just a little, but her voice was steady when she spoke. "We thank the Council for this opportunity," Lisa said, her words being translated into dozens of alien languages by the machines built into the room. "We humans request permission to settle on the planet you call Kepler 442c. A sound like grinding stone filled the room. It came from Dexara, a creature that looked like a giant insect walking on its back legs. Its forearms moved in patterns that Jake guessed meant it was not happy. When it spoke, the translation made its voice sound like an old man who had smoked too much. "Humans," Dexara said, "you do not understand what you ask. This world has gravity 3 times stronger than your home planet. Our own surveys show that most carbon-based life forms cannot survive there for more than a few days." Jake felt his heart beat faster. They had expected this reaction, but hearing it still made him nervous. He had trained for 2 years to stand in this room and make this request. His team back on the ship New Horizon was counting on him. Another alien spoke up. This one was tall and thin, made of what looked like purple crystal. Its name was Krillin, and it was older than any human civilization. When it moved, small lights flickered inside its body like stars. "We have documentation," Krillin said, its voice sounding like wind chimes. 17 different species have attempted to colonize high-gravity worlds. All have failed. The hegemony lost 300 colonists on a world with only twice your Earth's gravity. The collective lasted 5 days on a planet with 2.5 times standard gravity before emergency evacuation became necessary. Lisa stepped forward. "With respect, Council member, humans are different from those species. We have studied our own evolution carefully. Our ancestors survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and dramatic climate changes. We believe we can adapt to this challenge." A new sound entered the room. It was like bubbling water, but Jake realized it was laughter. It came from a creature that looked like a large jellyfish floating in a tank of green liquid. The tank moved on mechanical legs, and the creature's voice came from speakers attached to the base. "Adapt?" the jellyfish creature said. "Young humans, you have been in space for less than 100 of your years. We have been studying gravity effects on living beings for over 10,000 years. Your bones will break under triple gravity. Your hearts will fail trying to pump blood through your bodies. Your internal organs will be crushed by their own weight." Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "We understand the risks. We have trained for this. We have studied every piece of data you have shared with us about high-gravity worlds. We believe we can succeed where others have failed." "Belief is not science," said another alien, this one looking like a large cat with silver fur and 6 legs. "We have actual data. We have seen what happens when organic beings try to live in such conditions. It is not pretty." Lisa activated her device, and images appeared in the air above the table. They showed human athletes lifting weights, human mountain climbers scaling impossible peaks, human deep-sea divers working under crushing pressure. "Look at what humans already do on Earth," Lisa said. "We climb mountains where the air is thin. We dive to ocean depths where the pressure would crush most beings. We run marathons that will kill weaker species. We are built for endurance and adaptation. Exara made that grinding sound again. These are temporary activities. Living permanently under triple gravity is completely different. Your muscles will tear. Your spine will compress. Your circulatory system will fail. We cannot allow you to attempt this suicide mission. Jake felt his frustration growing. You are not allowing us to try. You are deciding for us based on what happened to other species. We are not other species. We are humans. Yes, said Krillin, its crystal body flickering brighter. You are humans. You are new to the galaxy. You have not learned the hard lessons that we have learned over millennia. High-gravity worlds are death traps for organic life. This is not opinion. This is fact. The room fell silent for a moment. Jake could hear the soft humming of the machines that kept the station running. He could smell the strange mixture of alien scents. He could feel the weight of 12 different species all looking at him, all thinking he was foolish. We have medical teams standing by, Lisa said, trying a different approach. We have emergency evacuation procedures. We have contingency plans for every possible problem. We are not going into this blind. Medical teams cannot fix crushed organs, said the cat-like alien. Evacuation procedures are useless if your people cannot survive long enough to use them. Contingency plans mean nothing when the basic physics of the situation makes survival impossible. A new alien spoke for the first time. It was small and round, covered in blue scales that reflected the light. Its voice was very high and sounded like singing. We mean no disrespect to humans, it said. But we have seen too many tragedies. Too many good beings have died trying to prove that they could survive where others could not. We do not want to add humans to that list. Jake looked around the room at all the alien faces. Some looked concerned. Others looked annoyed. A few looked like they felt sorry for him. None of them looked like they were going to change their minds. We have already survived on worlds that you said were impossible, Jake said. Humans live at the bottom of deep oceans and on top of tall mountains. We live in deserts where nothing else grows and in frozen places where the air itself tries to kill us. We have already proven that we can adapt to anything. Those are still Earth conditions, Dexara said. You have never left your single world for more than short visits. You have never tested your limits against truly alien environments. Triple. Gravity is not a tall mountain or a deep ocean. It is a force that will crush you slowly and painfully. The council members began talking among themselves in their own languages. Jake could not understand what they were saying, but their body language told him everything he needed to know. They were not discussing whether to approve the request. They were discussing how to say no in a way that would not hurt human feelings. Too much dot after several minutes, Krillin spoke for the council. We have decided. The request for colonization rights to Kepler 442c is denied. We suggest that humans focus on worlds with standard gravity. There are many such worlds available. That will be suitable for your species. Jake felt the words hit him like a physical blow. 2 years of preparation, months of travel, and it was over in less than an hour. He looked at Lisa, who was staring at the floor. He could see that she was trying not to cry. Thank you for your consideration, Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. We will return to our ship and inform our people of your decision. As they walked toward the exit, Jake could hear the aliens talking behind them. They were already moving on to other business, already forgetting about the foolish. Humans who thought they could survive where others could not, but Jake was not ready to give up. Not yet.